There are plenty of baseball teams considered historic. The 2016 Cubs, 1986 Mets, and 2004 Red Sox all immediately stand out as teams that have great significance in baseball history. But there's one that often gets forgotten that really shouldn't be. The 1992 Springfield Nuclear Plant City Champion softball team. Yes, we're counting them as a baseball team. That is definitely a baseball and not a softball. This team was incredible, and to fully understand why, we've got to go right back to the beginning. It's the preseason for the 1992 city softball year. The Springfield Nuclear Plant team was coming off its best season, where its record was 2-28. Hate to see their worst season. The players around the plant were very pessimistic going into the 1992 season until WOBA master Homer Simpson predicted that he would be having a breakout year. Why? His new secret weapon that he refused to tell anyone about. The possibilities seemed endless for what it could be. I heard he thought about putting trash cans in the dugout, and never mind. Opening day came against the Springfield Police Department, and Homer unveiled his new secret weapon. Roy Hobbs' bat that he stole and changed one letter for. There's no way he was able to make this himself. Look at Homer's homemade football. Anyways, prior to the game, Homer showed his son Bart his new magic bat and proceeded to invent baseball analytics in the process.
How many home runs you gonna hit with that?
Let's see, we play 30 games, 10 at-bats a game, 3,000.
Game time. After making sure everyone knows just how drunk you need to be by like the 4th inning, the game starts. The Cops started this game hitting the cover off the ball, jumping out to an early lead, until the 9th inning came along and the Plant got some base runners. Homer stepped up to the plate with the bases loaded, down by 3, and 2 outs in the inning. What happened next was the stuff of legend. Oh, my launch angle. I think that guy might be dead. Homer might be like Craig Feldspar levels of good at softball. The Plant won thanks to Homer's walk-off bomb, and after the game, he went home, put on the TV, and watched the StatCast version of his walk-off. As one does. As the season rolled along, Homer just absolutely tattooed all of the pitching Springfield has to offer, as did the rest of his team. 33-7 in the 4th, oh wow. Although, they are facing this dude who manages a local convenience store, so I'd love to see his ERA+. Before they knew it, everyone on the team was experimenting with new bats, and it seemed to be working because the team steamrolled their way to the championship. That's when everything changed. Team owner Mr. Burns became obsessed with the idea of winning. He met with the owner of the team they'd be playing, a fellow Plant owner, and some trash talk ensued. Mr. Burns and Steve Cohen came to an agreement. A $1 million bet over the result of the game. And Mr. Burns was not going to lose this bet. He decided he was going to make some roster moves in anticipation of the big game. He had some great targets in mind. Unfortunately, they'd already, died a long time ago. His birthplace was Pangea, okay? Cut him some slack, he's old. You know what Diamond Dynasty is on MLB The Show? It's basically a game mode where you can build your own team of players past and present and compete against everyone else online. Mr. Burns basically did that in real life. Now, bear with me here as we take a slight detour. There's a YouTuber named KTO who makes great football content, and it seems whenever he talks about football from before he was born, he calls upon fellow YouTuber FivePoints Vids for expertise on the times. The players Mr. Burns signed mostly peaked before I was born, so I'm gonna play the KTO card and have someone who actually watched these players give the new look roster a rundown.
SRS Mike asked me to break down all the players in this episode, and since I am so old I actually remember when this was broadcast, here we go. Steve Sachs was a defensive-minded second baseman for the Dodgers. I think he won a World Series in 1981, and he was a decent hitter. Wade Boggs likes fried chicken. He has 3,000 hits, and he played for the Tampa Bay Rays at the end of his career. Ozzie Smith, very famous for doing a backflip, didn't really hit a lot of home runs, defensive-minded shortstop, and ended up in the Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens, we know him, he's a steroid-using Donnie Baseball. I actually got to be within 2 feet of him last year. He was a very above-average player for the Yankees, and not quite good enough to get into the Hall of Fame, but decent nonetheless. Great defense. Darryl Strawberry, probably my favorite player growing up until he left for the Dodgers via free agency. He would hit a lot of home runs. He had a very majestic swing, and he did lots of drugs. Ken Griffey Jr., of course, we all know him as a legend. One of the sweetest swings I've ever seen. One of my favorite players of all time as well. Just incredible. Jose Canseco, he did a lot of drugs. They weren't mind-altering at all. They were basically steroids, though nowadays I think he's on some type of mind-altering drug. Mike Scioscia, I'm not sure how he got onto this list. He was a good defensive catcher. I think one year he might have hit 20 home runs, but I think because he was an LA Dodger at the time, it made him a little more popular. So, yeah, he kind of snuck on this list to round it out, but probably not the best player on this roster.
Thank you, 5 points. As established, Homer was the team's best player, and now Darryl Strawberry was out for his job, like the other 8 ringers. After arduous training, strategy, and player development, it was time for the lineup to be decided. Did Homer Simpson make it?
Clemens, did I make the team?
You sure did.
I did! Woohoo! Woohoo! In your face, Strawberry!
Wait a minute, are you Ken Griffey Jr.?
No.
Sorry.
Roger, you know who Ken Griffey Jr. is. This is a lie. You've been on 2 All-Star teams with him. You faced him 12 times in just 1991. What are you talking about? This is the same guy who once confused a bat for a ball, so oh well. The lineup was all set the night before the game until some things happened to the players. This right here is the sad part of the story. Wait, I thought owners weren't allowed to be the manager. Guess that doesn't apply in city softball. Driving home from practice that night, Steve Sax was arrested and soon after canceled on Twitter after it came out that MLB All-Star Steve Sax was responsible for every unsolved murder in New York City. Mike Scioscia suffered radiation poisoning from his time working at the power plant. The one guy who actually wanted to give some labor and stimulate the economy was punished for it. Mr. Burns got Ken Griffey Jr. hooked on PEDs, but for your brain. And this is why Nancy Reagan said to just say no. Jose Canseco was just taking a walk down the street that night until his archenemy came out of nowhere. Alex Rodriguez. Nope, wait, a house fire. Canseco helped the woman whose house was burning down get all of her belongings out of the house, and it took so long that he had to miss the game. This was the most rattled Jose Canseco had ever been until...
You're just a kid. You're just a kid.
What are your thoughts on Dogecoin?
Wade Boggs got absolutely dropped at Moe's Tavern in Springfield in a fight over who England's greatest prime minister was.
Palmerston!
Hit the elder!
Okay, you asked for it, Boggs!
Spoiler, they were both wrong. The answer is the Chappelle Show version of Tony Blair. Ozzie Smith quite literally vanished from Earth itself thanks to a scam this dude was running. This is a terrible business. Can't wait to see you get sued, man. Don Mattingly failed to obey Mr. Burns' rule of no sideburns. It was actually really surprising that no one reminded him to get rid of the sideburns when the Marlins hosted us for spring training while Mattingly is their manager. Come on. These sideburns are way too long, so I see what Mr. Burns was talking about. And Roger Clemens got hypnotized into thinking he was a chicken, in what has to be a violation of the American Hypnotical Association's rules. Clemens was in no condition to pitch. That left all of the All-Star additions unable to play, except Darryl Strawberry, he was fine. It was time for the team that was actually good enough to reach the championship in the first place to take the field, plus a guy who finished top 3 in NL MVP voting twice in his career. Darryl did his thing, crushing the ball all throughout the game. He went 9 for 9 with 9 home runs, but none of that mattered. The home crowd still heckled him to no end. On that day, Darryl Strawberry showed the world that he would not have lasted in an MW2 lobby. And the game came down to Strawberry needing to come through in a clutch spot. Tie game, bottom of the 9th, 2 out, Strawberry up. Until Mr. Burns took him out?
You're a left-hander, and so is the pitcher.
9 for 9 with 9 home runs, and you're taking him out because you're afraid of a lefty-lefty matchup? Wait till the people who criticize the Rays pulling Blake Snell see this one. Alright, so our old friend Homer Simpson pinch hits with the chance to be the hero. All he needs is a single or getting drilled in the face with the ball. A walk-off hit by pitch to win the championship. Unbelievable. Homer Simpson was the hero. He wasn't conscious for it, but he was. The Springfield Nuclear Plant won the city championship. It was time for a team photo. Pulling players back from the hospital, prison, and an alternate dimension, it was time for this team to celebrate. Against all odds, they won Mr. Burns his $1 million and formed a bond between them that'll last forever. Junior, are you still drinking the stuff that put you in the hospital?